Welcome to the Rescue One podcast. Each week, we talk about challenging the way we do business in the fire service when it comes to mental and physical health. I believe there's a better way to do it, and I want to bring in experts that can teach us exactly how and why we should be doing things differently for the sake of our longevity on and off the job. If we can just rescue one of our brother or sister firefighters from preventable injury, illness, or disability, then we've done our job. Thanks for listening. Look, I'm sure we've heard every claim under the sun about what CBD can do or cure or prevent or what it can't do. I want to kind of cut through it a little bit and go straight to what research and science says. Today we're talking studies and we're talking published medical studies about the research and benefits of CBD specifically as it pertains to the fire service. So we know CBD has a ton of potential benefits. Has it been researched to be 100% effective on anything? Absolutely not. But nothing is. There's something called an NNT, or number needed to treat. And that basically means how many people need to be treated with that medication or what have you for it to be effective. And for example, an opiate would be a 2. So out of 2 people, one of them is going to be, effectively treated by that opiate. And when it comes to pain, CBD was shown to be an NNT of 5. So it's, it's not obviously nothing for pain would be as effective as an opiate, but that's not what we're trying to get at. We're not trying to get, snowed on basically a legal form of heroin. We're trying to do something that's good for our bodies and help ourselves in the best way we can with a natural substance. We're going to talk about that, but these benefits aren't something that will show CBD has a efficacy of 100%. That's just not in the cards, and no medication or reputable scientist would say that something is 100% effective. What we do know is what the benefits can be, and so we're going to look at that. We're going to look at the science behind it and see how it's better than what we're currently doing as far as the culture that we're promoting within the fire service, how we can have a problem and try to hammer it with pharmaceuticals or a unnatural way to handle these kinds of things instead of a natural way. And we're going to talk about what the future looks like. So jumping right into it, I want to look at sleep. A really great study that is referenced a lot is the University of Denver study that showed sleep, particularly with anxiety. People were having decreased levels of anxiety before they went to bed, which was helping them fall asleep. And the study was more towards anxiety, but what they found was that 79% of these people on the anxiety side had a lower anxiety rate and were able to fall asleep faster. But once they fell asleep, as a side product, which is awesome, 66.7% of them reported that they had better sleep. It's attributed to improved REM cycles, which was found during studies with rats. They found that CBD administered to rats, they were having improved latency, their ability to how quickly it took them to fall asleep, and improved REM cycles. So it was nice to see in a human and an animal model something that was qualitative and quantitative, that it showed that it worked. Now the studies for sleep are scarce in CBD, and what we need is some more double-blind studies and some large-scale ones. But you got to remember, in referencing all of these studies, this stuff has been illegal for decades and decades, right? So a lot of the universities that are studying it now either are in states that were, the prohibition on hemp was lifted or cannabis was lifted, and they're able to do it, or they were in a state where it's been legal for a long time and they were doing it for that. So it's either a recent study or it was from a while ago when there was no prohibition on cannabis. Real quick, I'll talk about anxiety as well. The University of Sao Paulo had a double-blind study of human trials where they showed CBD reduced anxiety, and the scores that these people would have is from SAD or social anxiety disorder, which, they would report specific events that would cause anxiety, like speaking in public or being out in public or meeting new people, and it could be initiated very predictably. So it was an easy study to have because they could trigger these events predictably, and they would administer CBD beforehand and see how it was before and after. The cool thing is it was a double-blind study, so that means that when they were giving people these anxiety attacks, which sounds terrible, they're inducing anxiety attacks in these people. They would give some of them CBD, and some of them they would give a placebo, and they wanted to see what would work and which wouldn't. And the control group did not have relief symptoms of anxiety, and the CBD group did. And we're pretty quick to hammer medication in as a culture in general. Western medicine does that, and I think there are certain things that you can't replace medicine with. You need medications for medical problems, but could we get away with it without them is the question. We've been dependent on them for so long. Look at the opiate issue, especially in the United States. Look at the opiate crisis that's been happening. Could we have substituted it for something as effective as an opiate but less lethal or less addictive? Maybe. And I'm not saying CBD is the cure, but I do believe that it's worth a shot instead of going straight to an opiate. And it depends on what you're taking. If you have a significant surgery, CBD is not going to take all that pain away. It's been proven. They don't have the same efficacy as an opiate does. For opiates, they have an NNT, which is called a number needed to treat. So the amount of patients that come in, they would show you how many people would have to receive that drug for it to be effective. So the lower the number, the more effective it is. And it can be as high as 20 sometimes. So meaning before 20 people would have to take it before one is effective, statistically. So opiates, which are a very low number, is a 2. And CBD was shown to be at a 5, right? And that is usually, when they were testing that, according to a study published Psychiatric Times from a doc who's a professor at Baylor, he said that specifically what they said in quote is a similar meta-analysis of 18 double-blind studies revealed the efficacy showed modest cannabinoid analgesia. So it was modest effects, and that the number needed to treat, or the NNT, was a 5, and that opiates would be like a 2. So it has an added benefit that it's not addictive and that it's not, that it's not dangerous like an opiate, but it's obviously not as effective. So point being, you could take the edge off. You could try a cannabinoid. You could try CBD rather than just jumping straight to an opiate instead. A lot of it comes from us. We want that pain relief quickly. We don't want to try CBD. We just want an opiate to take the pain away. Because maybe we don't know this is out there, but this is the benefit that I believe the future of the fire service could be looking at. Take, for example, ibuprofen. Ibuprofen over time does damage to your GI tract, and acetaminophen over time can cause liver damage and kidney damage, and it's dangerous to take long term or take every day. And ibuprofen specifically, looking at a study from Umeå University in Sweden, in 2014, they showed that ibuprofen increases endocannabinoids in the body, particularly one called anandamide that we know CBD oil increases. So it begs the question, if ibuprofen is increasing endocannabinoids in your body and CBD does the same thing, are these two linked? And that is something that we can't say for sure right now. We have to look at future studies. They at least share one mechanism of action together. So again, this whole thing is about the promise and the future of CBD. We need to study this more, but it's not nothing. A lot of articles out there will just say the science is lacking and that it shows nothing yet, but we can't dismiss it. None of these studies are saying that this stuff doesn't work. They're not saying that any of this should be dismissed. They're saying there is significant promise here, and there's science and evidence to show that, we have things that are up and coming or that are showing that it is effective in these certain kinds of ways. And because, opiates are so commonly taken and that dependency, comes up, now we're looking for ways to combat it. Again, CBD has a benefit here where, Scripps Institute of San Diego, along with the University of Maryland, showed a study that CBD was helpful in helping relapse symptoms or withdrawal symptoms from opiates. We know that endocannabinoids in your body fool pain receptors into thinking they're getting opiates in a sense. It's just a natural pain reliever. And they were wondering if prescribing CBD consistently would help with that withdrawal symptom, to say, okay, you received that craving, you received your opiate, even though they're not getting it, and the withdrawal symptoms would stop. So that's what they did. And their conclusion is summarized here. In summary, the results provide proof of principle supporting potential of CBD for relapse prevention. And they specifically said that to further substantiate this large-scale treatment potential, it would be essential to extend the characterization of CBD's therapeutic profile in the future. So we need to look at a wide range of things that this thing could possibly do, only because there's so much evidence supporting the fact that it has an effect on our pain sensation in the body. What I'm stating is not a matter of my opinion. This is what scientists, researchers, and doctors and universities are coming together all over the world for decades and decades saying. So when that happens, if it's one rogue institute that has one study, that's not scientifically relevant. We should not be paying attention to that. But when multiple universities and several doctors and researchers with thousands and thousands of hours from all over the world have been saying the same common thing in the same direction for decades, we best start paying attention. I'll give you one more on inflammation. The University of Salerno, Italy, 2017, scientists took several of these data from all of these compilations that I'm talking about, and they reviewed the info and put together data to suggest that anti-inflammatory properties of CBD could help with the following: Alzheimer's disease, multiple sclerosis, general pain, inflammatory conditions, inflammatory bowel diseases, and cardiovascular diseases. Now, what that means is that there's potential to suggest that they could help with these things. They don't prevent or cure any of them. But pertaining to inflammation specifically, the way it affects all of these things, they believe that CBD will be a therapeutic benefit because of its effects on inflammation. So there's the significance, is that they can isolate, some mechanisms of action for each of these particular things, which I think is really interesting. And, all of these things are backed by credible institutions. I'm going to put the links to all of these studies in the show notes. I could obviously go very in depth on all of these, but one, it takes a little bit of time since they're significantly long. And also, some of it's kind of in some medical jargon, but I want you guys to see that it's credible, and I want it to be transparent. So please take a look at them if you'd like, and you could always DM me. I love talking about this stuff and nerding out about this stuff. I read it every day, and I'm always paying attention to the new and developing research that's coming out. This stuff is, anywhere from, studies in the 70s and 80s all the way up until, last year. So it is relevant because like I said, all of it is all contributing to the same direction. They're all pointing to the same direction. One is not discrediting the other in any sense, but they're few and far between in considering how much research is done on regular medications, or supplements or anything else. So I wanted to kind of put it out there and shed a little bit of light, if not just scratch the surface, talking about what CBD could be good for. But let's talk about the fire service for a second. What do we do if a member has a sleep issue? You can go to a doctor, and the first thing they're going to do is, do you think they're going to try to say, well, you might want to try getting off of your device a little bit. Maybe you should go camping for 30 days and reset your internal clock, or your REM sleep, or your circadian rhythm. Try a different diet. Try to eat melatonin-inducing foods. They're not going to say any of that stuff. They're going to say, would you like Ambien or Lunesta? And I'm not knocking doctors. Like I said earlier, medication will never be substituted, at least in my lifetime, for certain things, and it shouldn't. Medication has its place. What I'm saying is, do we need to go straight to that? I don't necessarily think so all the time. And I think that, we could try other things. A holistic approach in general is good. If you're having sleep issues, limit your screen time before bed. Wear blue light blockers to stop some of the blue light coming in to mess up your REM sleep. Try to avoid caffeine late in the day. There's like a million other things. CBD is one of them, and it works well for some people according to research. So yeah, pay attention to it, absolutely. But the same thing goes for pain and anxiety. All of our policies are just, they're reactionary. We don't do anything proactive. So among CBD, I would like to encourage everyone to just try to be a little bit more cognizant of changing their lifestyle towards being more holistic and healthier before we have to resort to a medication if needed, because a lot of these other medications are either with dangerous side effects or they don't make you feel that good. So just keeping that in mind, I think, is healthier than what we're doing now, instead of just rushing straight to the medication. Because once you start them, it's really tough. I've had members come up to me and say that they want to try CBD, but they don't want to stop their sleep medication. And I'm like, you could do both. But I don't know what the added benefit of CBD would be if you're getting good sleep with your sleep medication. It's the fact that you have to take your sleep medication is the issue, because the World Health Organization and several other places like the World Anti-Doping Organization and professional sports say CBD has a great safety profile with no indication of dependency. And I don't know of many medications where you could say that. Everything has a dangerous limit and everything has an addictive property if it's a pain medication to some extent. So why would you discredit it or discount it, And that's my 2 cents on some of the research that's been done, particularly with the fire service. I think other things are going to start to come out with PTSD, with depression. We don't have that much research on that stuff yet. We do know that CBD affects serotonin and that it can help with those things, but I don't think that any double-blind control group studies have been performed regarding, PTSD yet. And, when it comes out, I will absolutely bring that stuff to light. But until then, you guys can ask any questions you'd like. You can DM. You can leave a comment below this. I'm leaving all these studies again in the show notes, so check that out. And wherever you're listening or watching this, make sure you follow our channels on Instagram, follow our podcast. It's on Apple and Spotify, and our YouTube channel, obviously. So please take care of each other and be safe out there.